everyone, you ever feel like you can understand English, like when you're reading or listening, but then
Yeah.
actually speaking it out loud, that's a
Totally different.
totally different story. Yeah.
Beast. Yeah.
That's what we're diving deep into today.
Nice.
For English beginners who can't speak.
Interesting.
Now, I know the title says beginners, but trust me, there's some stuff in here
Yeah.
that even I was like, whoa, I never thought about it like that.
For more advanced learners, too.
Yeah, for more advanced learners, so stay tuned, even if you're already pretty good at English.
Yeah, I thought this video had some really interesting points,
Yeah.
especially the way it tackles the frustration a lot of learners feel. You know that feeling when you understand,
Uh-huh.
but you can't speak? Like you have all the pieces, but you don't know how to put them together.
Yeah.
They use this analogy of having all the building materials for a house, but you don't know how to build it.
Okay.
You have the vocabulary, the grammar.
Right, like the wood and the nails.
Exactly.
You got all the stuff, but then
But you don't know how to build a house.
you don't know how to make the house.
Exactly.
That analogy really spoke to me.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I've definitely felt that way before. So, like, how do we go from understanding to actually being able to speak?
Well, the video, it really emphasizes what they call expressive thinking.
Okay.
Now, it's not just about knowing words and grammar, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to actually think and communicate
Right.
in a way that really expresses what you mean.
Express yourself.
Exactly. Be expressive.
So how do we develop that expressive thinking?
That's where things get interesting.
Okay.
They actually suggest using writing as a tool.
Writing.
Yeah, writing.
Okay.
Now, it might seem a little strange, but think about it. When you write, you're actually forcing yourself to, like, organize your thoughts.
Okay.
Put them down on paper.
Mhm.
It becomes like a mirror.
Like looking in a mirror.
Yeah, mirror of your mind.
To see how you think.
Exactly, how you structure your ideas.
How you structure your ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they give these, like, really simple examples. Like,
Okay.
you start with a basic sentence like, today I went to the park.
Today I went to the park.
And then you add some detail. I saw a family having a picnic, and the weather was sunny.
Uh-huh.
And then you can even get a little deeper. I think going to the park is a good way to relax. Life is so fast-paced, and we all need to, like, relax sometimes.
Right. So you're adding more details.
Yeah, you're building on
You're
it.
building on it. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not just like subject verb. It's
Well,
like
it's a whole thought.
you're expressing a thought, yeah.
Exactly.
And that helps with the speaking because
Since it helps you get used to, like, forming complete thoughts in English,
Okay.
not just translating word for word.
Got it. And they also suggest using this technique
Yes.
called the Feynman technique.
That's right. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of it, yeah.
So the Feynman technique, it's like
Yeah.
you imagine you're teaching what you're writing to someone else. So it's not just writing for yourself.
Like I'm teaching
Yeah, you're teaching it.
this to someone.
Exactly. And that makes it...
Hey, you want to learn about the park? I went to the park today and this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And it forces you to think about it in a different way.
Okay, so it becomes more active.
Yeah, it's not just passive.
You're not just writing it down.
Right, you're really engaging with it.
You're really engaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really encourage listeners, like, try this out, even if it's just, like, short comments, short paragraphs.
Writing.
Yeah, just to get used to
Letting those thoughts out.
Yeah, expressing yourself in writing.
That's really interesting advice. I like that.
I think it'll surprise you how much it can help.
No, and I have to admit, I still get stuck sometimes when I'm speaking.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there's this mental block.
I know that feeling.
And I just can't get the words out.
It's so frustrating.
So frustrating.
Yeah, and that's, the video talks about this. This is that classic
What is it?
translation barrier.
Okay.
A lot of English learners, they haven't fully developed
Okay.
that automatic response that you need for speaking. So their brains are still wired to translate everything first. And that's where
I get caught up.
Yeah, that's what slows you down.
Yes.
And it makes you feel stuck.
I find myself like searching for the perfect word, even though I know
Exactly.
I've learned it before. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's like you know it, but you can't access it.
It's right there.
Yeah.
But I can't get it out.
And you know what? The video, they actually give a technique for this. They call it retelling.
Retelling.
Yeah.
So that's like what? Retelling a story.
Well, it's kind of like that, but it's more about, like, narrating your own experiences.
Like talking to myself in English.
Exactly. Like, you go through your day.
Okay.
You see things, you hear things.
Uh-huh.
and you just try to retell them
Okay.
in English in your head.
So, like, I see a squirrel,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, there's a squirrel running up the tree.
Yeah, or like, I went to the store today, and I bought some milk.
Okay.
Simple things.
I see how that would help with, like, constructing sentences and remembering vocabulary.
Exactly. It's all about practice.
Okay, but wouldn't I just be using the same...
Well, that's where you get creative.
Okay.
It's not about just repeating what you heard. It's about
Okay.
using it as a starting point.
Okay.
Like, you can add your own opinions. You can connect it to your own experiences.
Oh, okay.
Make it your own.
So I can still be creative with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's about...
It's not just like parroting back what I heard. It's like
It's taking that input
Yeah.
and turning it into something.
something I can use.
Yeah, something you can use.
Okay, I like that.
And the video, they specifically mention story-based podcasts,
Oh, yeah, like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're great because they give you like a
Yeah.
lot of context and natural language.
Yeah, natural language, yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can use that.
So it's not just like random sentences.
Oh, it's like a whole story.
It's a whole story.
Right.
I like that. So I can like, after listening to a story,
Yeah.
I can retell it in English,
Ex-
even if it's just to myself.
Even if it's just to yourself, it's still good practice.
Oh, that's great. And they also recommend using like
Yeah.
IELTS speaking topics as prompts.
Have you ever looked at those?
I have. Yeah, those are pretty...
They're pretty interesting.
They're interesting, yeah.
And there's so many online
Yeah.
like sample questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find tons of stuff about like everyday topics.
Everyday topics.
And that can be really helpful for just
I see.
like getting used to
Uh-huh.
formulating your thoughts in English,
Formulating your thoughts. Yeah, that's great.
right?
And it sounds like this retelling, it's about
Yeah.
almost like making English.
Just integrating it.
Integrating it
Yeah.
into your everyday life.
Exactly. It's not just something you study.
Right. It's like even if I'm not
A part of your life.
studying, I can still be thinking in English, using it.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. I like that.
Make it a habit.
Make it a habit. And the more you use it,
The more natural it becomes.
the more natural it becomes. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like you start by writing to get those thoughts organized.
Okay.
Then you're using retelling to actually
To bridge that gap
bridge the gap.
between understanding and speaking.
Okay. I like this. It's like a step-by-step process.
It is. It's a process.
And it's all about training your brain
to think in English.
to think, yeah, not just
translate.
translate. It's like actually think correctly in English. Okay, this is giving me a whole new perspective.
I think it's a really valuable perspective.
Because it's not just about
It's not just about memorizing.
memorize it. It's like actually, yeah, changing the way I think.
changing your mindset.
Okay, so what about people who
Yeah.
who feel like they understand pretty well, but they just
Mhm.
can't seem to activate it when they speak?
The video actually addresses this.
Okay.
They talk about
Yeah.
passive fluency versus active fluency.
I like that passive versus active.
So passive fluency is like
yeah.
you understand,
Uh-huh.
but speaking
But speaking is the hard part.
is a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
That's me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can read a book, I can
Mm-hmm.
watch a movie.
You understand.
Yeah, I understand it, but then having a conversation,
But actually speaking is
it's tough.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Well, the video's message here is really encouraging.
Okay.
They basically say
Yeah.
that a lot of learners,
Uh-huh.
they already have this
Okay.
solid foundation of passive fluency,
Like, I've got the foundation.
It's-
It's there.
but it's just a matter of
Okay.
unlocking it.
Unlocking. Okay, I like that. So how do we unlock it?
So they actually recommend something that might sound really simple,
Oh, okay.
but it's super powerful.
All right.
It's reading aloud.
Reading aloud.
Yeah,
Just reading aloud, will that help me speak better?
it will.
Really?
Trust me.
Okay.
It might seem basic,
Yeah.
but it's really effective
Okay.
because when you read aloud, you're essentially
Yeah.
training your brain
Okay.
to believe that you are fluent.
So it's like almost like,
It's like tricking your brain.
I like that, tricking your brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Into fluency.
In a fluency, but how does it actually...
So think about it. When you read aloud,
Uh-huh.
you're engaging multiple senses. You're seeing the words. You're hearing yourself speak them.
Okay, I'm hearing...
You're feeling the movements of your mouth.
Right, right,
So this multisensory experience,
right.
it actually creates stronger connections in your brain.
Oh, interesting.
And it makes it easier to access.
So it's not just
It's not just about memorizing.
memorizing.
It's about creating this experience
Okay.
that helps your brain really connect.
Connect the dots
Yeah, connect those dots.
between the words and speaking.
Exactly.
I see.
And I have to admit, I know some people feel self-conscious
Oh, yeah, me too.
reading out loud.
Yeah, like my inner critic comes out.
But the video really emphasizes pushing past that discomfort.
Okay.
The more you practice,
Uh-huh.
the more confident you become.
So it's like
And that confidence will translate into better speaking.
the more you do it, the
The easier it gets.
easier it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you have to be careful about
Well, here's a bonus tip from the video. They say try to avoid speaking too softly.
oh, really?
Yeah, because mumbling, it can actually increase your nervousness.
Oh, interesting.
It creates this, like, vicious cycle.
Like you're not confident.
Yeah, and you mumble more.
And then you mumble more.
And you feel worse, yeah.
So it's almost like you have to.
So they say, even if you just project your voice a little bit,
Okay.
you'll naturally feel more in control.
Feel more in control. So it's like
And your words will flow better.
it's like a mental thing.
It's a mental thing.
That actually helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what kinds of things?
So they recommend
Yeah.
starting with short sessions, like
Yeah.
5-10 minutes at a time.
Yeah. Not too much.
Just a little bit.
So like a
Read anything you find interesting, like a
okay.
book, an article, even a podcast transcript.
A podcast transcript. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, why not?
So it could be anything.
It could be anything. The key is
Mm-hmm.
to focus on clear pronunciation and speaking with conviction.
So it's not just about
It's not just reading the words.
It's about expressing.
Expressing them.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So it's really about building that connection
Yeah.
between your thoughts and your voice.
Between my thoughts and my voice and the
English language.
English language. Wow, this is great
And
advice.
it's a whole new way of thinking about it.
I'm already feeling inspired.
I'm glad to hear it.
But I think we should take a little break,
Okay.
digest all this information,
That sounds good.
and then come back and figure out
Yeah.
how to actually apply these tips.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, stay
Be
tuned.
right back.
Welcome back. I don't know about you, but I am ready to try some of this stuff out.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that reading aloud, I think I'm going to do that tonight
That's great.
with like a chapter of my favorite book.
Awesome.
It's funny because we were just talking about
Mm-hmm.
the passive fluency.
Active fluency thing, and it's like,
Right.
that's me. With books, I can read a book fine,
Mm-hmm.
but then actually speaking, it feels like,
It's a different...
yeah, it feels like a totally different skill.
It is. It is a different skill.
I think for me, it's a few things. It's like
Yeah.
fear of making mistakes, not having the vocabulary at my fingertips,
Right.
and then the translation barrier.
Yeah, that translation period.
Which we talked about.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's like you have all these voices in your head.
Oh, yeah.
Like the voice that understands English, the
Mhm.
voice that wants to speak,
Uh-huh.
and then the voice of, like, self-doubt.
Like, are you sure you're doing this right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I know that voice.
It can be tough.
It can be tough to quiet that one down.
It is, but that's where these techniques really come in handy. The writing, the
Mhm.
retelling, the reading aloud.
Right, because you're practicing.
You're practicing, you're building confidence.
So that voice gets
Quieter?
quieter.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned that retelling can be a great way
Yeah,
to practice speaking.
absolutely.
I'm still a little fuzzy on how that works.
I can explain that.
Okay, yeah.
So retelling, it's basically finding opportunities
Yeah.
to just narrate
Very
your own
interesting.
experiences
Okay.
in English.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be anything formal or complicated.
Okay.
Like, let's say you're on your way to work and you see an interesting billboard.
Okay.
You could just, like, in your head,
Yeah.
retell what you saw.
Yeah. Like describe it.
Yeah, describe the image,
Okay.
the colors, the message,
And I can
even your own thoughts about it.
Yeah, I think that billboard is trying to sell me something.
Exactly.
Okay. So that would help with vocabulary for like
Everyday thing.
everyday things.
Okay.
Like, or let's say you listen to a news story on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
You could retell the main points to a friend.
Even if they don't speak English.
Yeah. Or to yourself.
I like that.
It doesn't matter. It's the act of, so it's just the act of,
Summarizing
okay.
and explaining it.
Okay, so I'm like processing the information
Dissecting.
and using English to do it.
And it helps you internalize the language.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that, like using English throughout the day,
Make it a part of your life.
even if it's just little things that can really make a
think that
difference.
Small things add up
Yeah.
over time.
So with retelling, like you said, it can be anything.
It could be anything.
It could be like, I watched a YouTube video and then I retell it.
You retell it.
Or I read an interesting article
Yeah.
and I retell the
The main points.
main points.
Yeah.
I like this. It's like turning everything into a...
It's a language learning opportunity.
Yeah.
That's how you got to think about it.
That's how I got to think about it.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off, too.
Exactly.
Because it's not about being perfect. It's about
It's about practicing
practicing.
and just using what you know.
Okay, so just use what you know.
Yeah.
And we'll get better.
You'll get better over time.
Yeah, it's about the journey.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, not the destination.
Exactly. Embrace imperfection.
I like that.
Celebrate the small wins.
I want to go back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Conditioned response.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's a psychological term.
It is.
But how does it relate to English?
So basically,
Yeah.
a conditioned response is like an automatic reaction.
Okay.
Happens without conscious thought.
Hmm.
Like if you touch something hot,
Yeah.
you instantly pull your hand away.
Yeah, you don't think about it.
You don't think, oh, this is hot, I should move.
You just do it.
You just react.
Okay.
And so how it relates to speaking is fluent speakers,
Okay.
they kind of have this conditioned response to speaking.
Like they don't have to
They don't have to translate.
think about it.
They just think and speak.
Yeah, that's what I want.
That's the goal.
But I'm always like translating in my head.
Well, that's what we're trying to overcome.
Yeah, I'm not getting burned when I
Right.
speak English, but it does kind of feel like a,
A mental burn.
yeah,
You get stuck.
when you get stuck. You
Yeah.
feel that frustration
So we got to train our brains.
to react more quickly,
Okay.
more automatically.
To English.
Yeah. So it's like building those pathways in your brain where the
Uh,
words just flow.
Flow naturally.
Yeah.
And the more we practice,
The stronger those pathways become.
the stronger they become and
Yeah.
the more
Long term.
automatic it gets.
Exactly.
Okay, so writing, retelling, reading aloud,
Uh-huh.
all those can help build that.
That automatic response.
Yeah, that automatic response. But I have to admit,
Yeah.
I still find myself translating sometimes. It's like this.
It's a habit.
Yeah, it's a habit.
That's hard to break.
Yeah.
But it's a habit that we can break.
Okay.
Our brains are amazing. They're
They are.
always looking for patterns.
And, for a lot of us, that means translating
Translating.
back and forth
Back and forth.
between our native language and English.
And it's a lot of work.
It is.
It's like a mental juggling act.
It is a mental juggling act.
And sometimes I just drop all the ball.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and it's like,
And that's where the frustration comes in.
frustration. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So the more we practice these things,
The less we'll need to rely
on
on.
the translation.
Yeah.
We can
Let's-
shift away from that.
Okay, so shift away from the translation
Now start thinking more.
directly in English.
Directly in English. That's the goal.
The goal. All right, I like it.
Make English the language of your mind.
Yeah, so it's like retraining my brain.
It is brain training.
Brain training, okay, I like it. New habits.
New habits.
Are there any other techniques for overcoming that translation barrier?
The video actually mentions something called shadowing.
Shadowing? Is that like what? Mimicking?
Kind of.
It's more about mimicking,
Mm-hmm.
like the rhythm and intonation.
Oh, okay.
So you find like an audio clip or a video, something you enjoy in English,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to speak along with it
Speak along with it. Okay.
as if you're shadowing them.
I see how that would be good for like
Pronunciation,
pronunciation and
Like-
like the flow of the language.
the flow, the natural rhythm.
But wouldn't I just be repeating what they're saying?
You are repeating, but the idea is
Right.
you're internalizing those
Aw.
patterns.
So it's like training my brain to anticipate
Exactly.
how English works
How English is structured.
so that when I'm not shadowing, I can still use
Yeah.
those patterns.
It'll become more natural.
Oh, I like that. So it's not just about
It's not just about the words.
the words, it's about,
It's an underlying patterns.
yeah, it's like learning it's like training your ear.
Like music.
Yeah. Like music, but for language. That's a really cool way to think about it. So I can
And it can help you.
use shadowing for like pronunciation, intonation,
connected speed.
connected speech, all that good stuff.
All the tricky stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that I get tripped up on.
Yeah. And the best part is
Yeah.
you could use anything.
Okay.
Any audio, any video.
So podcasts, movies,
Movie, TV shows.
TV shows, anything.
Anything.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of stuff I can use.
I'm glad to hear it.
I like podcasts because
Yeah.
they're so conversational.
Yeah. Very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I could learn a lot.
And remember,
Yeah.
the goal is not to sound exactly like them.
Okay.
It's to take inspiration
Inspiration.
from their fluency
Okay.
and adapt it to your own voice.
Your own voice. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that because everyone's voice is
Thanks for-
unique. So you don't want.
You don't want to be a copycat.
Yeah. You want to be yourself, but better.
Exactly. Be the best version of yourself.
This is so encouraging. It's like
I'm glad you're feeling encouraged.
this whole new way of thinking about it.
It's a new perspective.
Yeah. It's not about.
It's not about just rules and memorization.
Yeah. It's about like actually
It's about practice.
practicing experimentation and like finding the joy in it.
Finding the joy. That's important.
I think that's key.
Absolutely.
So I think our listeners are ready to hear about, like, okay, how do we
Put this into practice.
put this into practice?
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about some practical
Oh,
strategies.
good. Let's get practical.
It's amazing how much we've covered, like we started with this one YouTube video
Mm.
and we've like,
It's like we opened up this whole
yeah,
toolkit.
a
Yeah.
whole toolkit
For
for
fluency.
fluency.
Yeah.
And it's like, it keeps growing.
It's like, it's a
Yes.
process.
It's a
It's a process.
process.
Ongoing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is realizing that it's about consistency. It's
Absolutely.
not about like
It's not about cramming.
cramming, yeah. It's about those little effort, lately practices. Yeah, very little.
Practices, yeah, that actually
Those are the things that make a difference.
they make a difference. So
Yeah,
what would you say, like, what's the
Right.
biggest takeaway for our listeners?
the biggest takeaway.
Like, if they could only remember one thing
Yeah.
from this whole deep dive.
I think for me, the most important thing is finding your voice.
Finding your voice.
Literally.
Literally, okay.
Let's set aside
Yeah.
5 minutes every day
5 minutes.
just to read something out loud. It could
Okay.
be anything.
Could be anything.
A news article, a recipe.
Like the back of a cereal box.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
The point is to get comfortable
Okay.
hearing yourself.
Hearing myself speak English.
Yes, because the more you do that,
Yeah.
the more natural it will become. And it becomes less scary, right? Because you're like,
I'm not judging yourself.
yeah, I'm just doing it.
You're just practicing.
Practicing. Yeah.
And you'll notice that. Like,
Mhm.
those mental blocks start to fade away
Oh, I like that.
when you're not so worried about
Yeah.
making mistakes.
I'm not focused on making a mistake. I'm focused on
speaking.
speaking.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to that
That inner critic.
inner critic thing.
Right.
Yeah. So reading aloud is like,
It's a way to silence that critic.
silence the critic. Just
Yeah.
do it.
Just do it.
Don't think about it. Just do it.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah. I like that.
And it's really about
Yeah.
shifting your mindset from
From like fear. Yeah.
to playfulness.
Playfulness. I like that. That's a good.
Have fun with it.
Have fun with it.
It's not supposed to be torture.
No, it should be enjoyable. And I think that's a great
Yeah.
note to end on,
I agree.
embracing the joy.
Yeah.
Learning.
Language learning should be fun.
It should be fun.
Yeah.
It's not about reaching perfection.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey. Yeah.
Enjoy the process.
And celebrate
The
like,
little victories.
the little victories. Yeah. I like that.
And remember, everyone's journey is different.
It is.
There's no one right way.
Yeah. So you do you.
Do what works for you.
Yeah. And be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
Be patient. Yeah.
Yeah, be patient. It takes time.
It does take time.
Yeah,
But it's worth it.
it's so worth it.
I think so.
Yeah.
So to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
remember, find your voice.
Embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey and never stop
Exploring
the world of English.
the world of English. Until next time,
Happy learning.
happy learning.